A friend of mine always used to say, denial's not just a river in Egypt. And she's right. So what is denial? What are its mechanics and how do people come out of it? The first time I remember hearing about denial in a serious way was in Al-Anon, where they called it the disease of the alcoholic family. This was in probably 2010, and I just remember not fully understanding what was being talked about, because ironically, I was in denial about being in denial. But now, 15 years later, having done a lot of emotional repression work, I really get what it is and why it applies to the alcoholic family. The first thing to know is that alcoholism is a direct result of emotional repression, which means when people bury and repress emotions in childhood, they become alcoholic. They drink compulsively to soothe the suffering that arises as the result of burying their feelings when they were a kid. So why does this affect the whole family of the alcoholic? Well, because emotional repression is contagious. When one person in a family is actively denying their own reality, the reality that there are buried, repressed emotions in their body, they inadvertently end up denying everyone else's reality in the family too. Another way to say this would be everyone's forced to pretend that something that's happening, emotional repression, isn't happening, yeah? So everyone's forced into a state of denial. So in this way, being in denial means being emotionally repressed. And by the way, this also explains why gaslighting is a phenomenon. We know from our work in KI that when we bury what's true, in hypothetical Jack's case, hurt and grief, then we're forced to show up falsely. So for Jack, that means as a manipulative narcissist or something. So when Jack tries to gaslight Jill, or when Jack tries to deny Jill's reality, it means that Jack's already denying his own. He's already gaslighting himself, and he just needs Jill to come along. Also, he doesn't have to experience that buried hurt and grief. Gaslighting and denial are both about maintaining emotional repression, yeah? So that, we don't have to feel things that we don't want to feel. And then add to the mix that when people are in emotional repression and are trying to avoid feeling the things that have been buried in their bodies since childhood, the most effective way to stay in denial is to believe things. Take Jill from earlier, right? She believes, thanks to social media, that she is an empath and that Jack is a narcissist, right? Which is another way of saying that she believes she's good and Jack is bad. What Jill doesn't realize yet is that she has to believe that about herself and Jack in order to keep her unconscious, repressed, buried, narcissistic rage at bay. She has to believe that she's good and someone else is bad, right? She's had to since she was a kid with her alcoholic father, so that she doesn't have to get angry. Jill's not really an empath, right? She's an anger repressor, and Jack's not really a narcissist. He's a hurt and grief repressor. But both have to buy into those identities in order to stay safely emotionally repressed and in denial. So as you may have already guessed, in order to come out of denial, we've got to come out of emotional repression. We have to start challenging what we're deeply believing in order to come out of the denial of our buried repressed emotions. If you'd like to do that with me, the link is in the caption or the bio.